Welcome to the Ogden City Council meeting of October 25th, 2016. This is the 6 p.m. City Council meeting. Please note that all council members are present. With that, I will turn the time over to Vice Chair Blair to introduce the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Chair White. Tonight we have Logan Shobe here from Troop 166, and he has agreed to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. So I'll turn the time over to Logan.
Did you have to twist his arm?
No, and he was almost elected by all those others to do it.
Would everybody please arise? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so our whole troop is here, and we're working on our communications merit badge and our citizenship in the nation merit badge.
Great. Do you want to invite them up and they can tell us their names and then they can be on the record?
Yeah.
Would you guys like to come up?
Names.
Hi, I am Brandon Hunt. I am working on these two merit badges.
My name is Cameron Christensen, and I'm working on these two merit badges.
I'm Dylan Norris, and I'm working on these two merit badges as well.
I'm Braxton Shope, and I'm working on the same merit badges.
I am Bryce Montgomery, and I'm also working on these same merit badges.
I'm Caden Gopher, and I'm working on the same merit badges.
I'm Chris Gover, and I'm working on the same merit badges.
Great. Well, thank you for being here, and thanks to your leaders, and thanks, Logan, for taking care of that for us.
It's good to see you guys in uniform. You look sharp.
We'll try to give them some excitement tonight,
Yeah.
right? So next on our agenda is a moment of silence. Please take it with me. Thank you. We have next on our agenda item is approval of minutes. This is for the work session of May 19th, 2016. Vice Chair Blair.
Yes, Chair White, I have reviewed those minutes and found them to be accurate.
What's
I was still having a moment of silence.
I'm sorry. Are you done?
I'm done.
Okay. Do you want to do it again?
Nope, I'm good.
This is next is the special meeting of June 14th, 2016. Councilmember Nadolski.
Thank you, Chair White. I've reviewed those minutes and found them to be an informative refresher and to be accurate.
The regular meeting of June 21st, 2016. Councilmember Garner.
Yes, Chair White, I've reviewed those minutes and found them to be correct.
The work session of July 5th, 2016, and the joint work session of July 26th, 2016. Councilmember Heyer.
Yes, Chair White, I have reviewed those minutes and found them to be accurate.
And last, the work session of August 2nd, 2016, and the joint work session of August 16th, 2016. Councilmember Lopez.
Yes, Chair White, I have reviewed the minutes, found them to be accurate. I make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Lopez, second by Councilmember Heyer. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Next on our agenda item is there are two common consent items. One is the appointment of the Airport Advisory Committee, and the other is the Weber County Justice Court Nominating Commission to approve those appointments.
Chair White, I'll make a motion that we adopt the items under common consent.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Garner and second by Councilmember Heyer to adopt these or approve these appointments. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. And up on number 6 is our public hearing for the fiscal year 2017 budget amendment.
Chair Lisa Stout will be making that presentation.
Out.
Thank you, Chair White, Vice Chair Blair. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. I would like to review the budget opening ordinance before you this evening. In the city, this is a total budget opening request of are we in the RDA meeting or the city meeting?
The city.
Okay. I am so sorry. Of $3 million. The components of this budget opening include an appropriation of medical services fund balance to be transferred to the Fleet and Facilities Fund to aid in the purchase of a new fire truck. And Chief Matthew reviewed the needs of that purchase, and the health of the medical services fund is sufficient to cover this transfer. Additionally, we are requesting an appropriation of $2 million in the Asset Area Control program. This is a program in the Major Grants Fund run by Community Development. They purchase homes to rehab and then sell. This money is then reinvested in this program, so the number of homes that they turn over, the more money is required for, the more budget appropriation is required for this program. Do you have any questions regarding this budget opening? We do have one other transaction I forgot to mention, and that is a transfer from the CIP Critical Contingency Fund to the RDA for purchase of property. There will be a similar budget opening in the RDA to recognize this transfer appropriation. The critical contingency is used for needs that come up at our facilities during the year. After this transfer, $15,000 will remain in this fund. Thank you very much.
So this is a public hearing. Oh, Chief Matthew, would you like to come up and talk about the purchase of the fire truck at all? Sorry, I didn't see you sneak in.
A short.
Council, Madam Chair and council members, I would love to. Just because the CAO is present, and I think he needs to enjoy this as long as he can. But I very much appreciate you considering this appropriation and what it does for our fleet. If it goes back to the 2007 management audit, if you look and refer to that. And the biggest point I was trying to make in the informational submittal was in the age of our fleet, specifically the frontline service years of our fleet, dropping a significant amount by being able to surplus the 1995 what we commonly refer to as a pumpulance, but the old engine that we used for our first engine ambulance that's got over 200,000 miles on it as a reserve that's really unreliable today, that is removed from service totally and surplused and was replaced with this new unit. It not only helps us in the frontline status significantly, but it helps us with our 2 reserve units that go into play whenever the frontline 5 units go in for service. And we don't have to use that 1995 200,000 mile unit that is getting suspect in terms of reliability, and we don't want to put a significant amount of money into that. And by making this purchase, it also dramatically improves the age of our fleet of our frontline service. So thank you very much for considering this.
Any questions?
I'm hoping for a ride around the block in this new truck when it comes. That's kind of exciting. He's talked so great about it.
We might. Well, no, risk management, we have an attorney. We'll just have to reserve it to a ride. We won't let you drive it.
Okay.
But you can hit the horn if you'd like, if there's no cars on the road.
See, I've seen him drive, and we don't want him driving it.
Yeah, he's crashed into me, so he has.
Anybody else want to talk before? We just have to open the public hearing real quick.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Heyer, second by Councilmember Nadolski to open the public hearing. Now you can do it. Oh, yeah, voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Hi, my name is Travis Pate. I live at 2546 Jefferson, essentially just in the Jefferson Avenue Historic District. And I've often expressed concern that affects the Jefferson Avenue Historic District, as well as with Weber County Heritage Foundation and other aspects of what I'm a part of. I have a concern. I don't have a concern with the purchasing of 503 26th Street. I think I applaud the council and / the RDAs if that's thereby approved. And this money.
Travis,
yeah.
This is the
Public
hearing for the purchase of a fire truck.
And it says transfer of money for other property purchase. So it's part
okay.
of. So it's basically we're transferring money from essentially BDO to Ogden City then to RDA. So this is actually part of that, I believe.
Sorry.
And so in that vein, I'm not opposed to any purchase. I am opposed to the demolition. I think that the aspect of offering possibly the demolition cost of $100,000 to a developer that would come in and do it correctly, I think it's a historically significant. If you look at the individuals that lived in the property 90 years ago, and including as part of the Browning family, it's immediately west of the Scowcroft property. It just shows different people that were machinists for the railroad, laundry service people, welders, blacksmiths. You look at 60 years ago, people that worked at Hill Air Force Base, metal workers, those types of things. So I think the property is definitely a salesman for Procter & Gamble. I mean, all these things that we're still familiar with a lot of the names. Basically, I think that the demolition would be a grave mistake. And so using money to unit reduction, we already did that at 2555 Jefferson. 13 units now as a single-family home, which many council members, including the mayor and Mr. Johnson, have been able to see the city's investment. I think this is a prime opportunity for that same investment for the Adams Avenue. When you just tear down and say, for a future hold, for something else we may or may not put in there, I think it's blind. I think that we need to reconsider not the purchase, but definitely the demolition side of that, and not use city funds for a demolition of potential for a historic venue, especially the walkability score, 82. I think that's pretty high. And so I think that the aspects of just knowing the history of the full slice instead of just saying let's just doze it, it was always working class up until zoning and other things just possibly through reinforcement didn't get caught. And so I'd just like to say that, yeah, I approve the money for purchase because there's no way that possibly that a private developer would want to come in just the same way we did with the junction. No possible way. And yeah, look what we have there now. And so I just want to emphasize on that. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Travis.
Thank you.
Any other?
Madam Chair, I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer, second by Councilmember Nadolski to close the public hearing. The voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes now.
I would also make a motion that
Sorry,
we...
Chair,
Yes.
wait, before we accept the motion, can I ask a question to the administration?
Ask away.
Just since Travis and the public has brought it up, and I've heard the same question from other folks as well. So I was just hoping that the administration could explain the rationale that was included in our packet for why we've elected for demolition versus restoration.
Is there any way we could answer that question in the RDA meeting when Ward's here?
I think that is something that is it's appropriate that we discuss. I don't think it's germane to whether the motion passes or not, but
okay.
I feel like maybe we could discuss that. So
and just to clarify, this this money for property purchase is not for the 503 26th Street.
I apologize.
That's okay.
But I'll get back to it.
Lisa,
So what is it for? What is it for?
Piece of property.
West 24.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
okay. Shall I proceed?
Yeah.
Yes, do we need a clarification, though? I mean, we're good with the clarification, what Janine just had. Okay. Yes.
Okay, I move that we adopt ordinance 2016-56.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer, second by Vice Chair Blair, to adopt the FY 2017 budget amendment. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Garner.
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Nadolski.
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Vice Chair Blair.
Aye.
Chair White.
Aye. That passes. Next on the agenda is an opportunity, it's a public comment, it's opportunity to address the council regarding concerns or ideas on any topic.
Just similar back to the topic that I had addressed before with regards to infrastructure. We spent a small fortune, the city spent a small fortune, and then private investment has spent a fortune on Jefferson Avenue. When the blacktop comes in, it's just the chip seal and then the tar on top, versus whereas at the junction, they actually pre-mixed the gravel and covered it with blacktop, so it actually separated it and made it distinct. The infrastructure, meaning the trolley tracks and then the crosswalks that are on there, with which were stamped poured reinforced concrete, there was minimal care given to how the tar was slopped over those, and there's gravel now over the crosswalks. Months ago, someone ran over the stop sign too. It's now replaced with a corrugated galvanized steel pipe instead of the black that matches the rest of the neighborhood. And so I think that a lot of those things is consistency of protection of the investment that's already been made, and I think that the infrastructure needs to follow that. And then with regards to Porter Avenue, I think that there's the possibility for a restoration. We still have Waterfall Academy on that block, so should that staircase and access from Porter Avenue to 26th Street be restored, they have committed to basically snow removal, weed abatement, trash removal, all those types of things as just a neighborhood cleanup. And so I think, to me, and then going back to my previous comment, it's an access right to the New Life Apartments, originally called the Morton Terrace, and then later Elmwood Apartments. So it's not, and so I think New Life can have a new life, especially as that area comes back to. But first and foremost, we need to protect the investment that we've already made. The tar and everything else that's slopped over those crosswalks is pretty ugly.
Travis, just for verification, which stop sign?
26th in Jefferson on
Okay.
the southwest corner.
Thank you.
And then and his car insurance should pay for it. I mean, I'm sure there's a police report, those types of things. So it's just a matter of just getting the right sign for that.
Anyone else? All right. Will you note that 26th and Jefferson?
Yeah, I've written it down. I'll have our guys look into it.
Next on the agenda for the council meeting is comments from the mayor.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Council members.
I make my prediction that Weber State will win this coming Saturday. It'll be 7 points.
7 points.
Oh, I've been really close.
It's undefeated.
Yeah.
Chair White, quick comment. I requested a crosswalk study a few months ago on the corner of 7th and Van Buren, and I noticed that there were some lines painted just a couple of days ago, but it looks as if may not be finished. I'm not sure what the status of that may be, so just wanted to pass it on to see if we might be able to look into that.
I've asked for an update on that. I should be getting it, I think, in the next couple of days.
Thank you. Thank you.
It is very exciting to see Harrison getting ready for pavement all the way from end to end. The residents along there are going to be overjoyed. And they've done a great job. And engineering has dealt well with the people. There's very few complaints that continue. It's been a fairly smooth project for as big as it was. Good.
I want to do a shout out to both Janine and Bill for their 20 years. Janine, thank you for putting up with us for that long. And then Bill is at 15. He's not here to get that recognition, but we'll pass it along to him. So congratulations. Anybody else?
Luis, tomorrow's a special day.
Yes.
Busted.
Wish you a happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, Carl.
Any other things? Great. No more.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer, second by Vice Chair Blair to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes. We're out of here for that meeting. So, all board members are present. Next on our agenda is the approval of minutes. The special meeting of June 21st, 2016, and the joint work session of August 19th, 2016. Board Member Stevens.
Yes, they're correct. Make a motion that we accept all the minutes that has been presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Board Member Stevens, second by Board Member Lopez to approve the minutes. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And next up is public hearings, the fiscal year 2017 budget amendment.
Since this is the RDA meeting, Lisa will be making the presentation. I thought I'd help her which meeting it was on the way up.
She was ready.
Welcome to the RDA meeting.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, board members. It's an honor to be here this evening. I would like to review the resolution before you. This is to appropriate additional funds in the redevelopment agency. Let me get to the right. The total appropriation in the RDA would be to increase the budget by $3,785,000. $85,000 of this would be a transfer in from the city to the RDA for the purchase of property, and I was pretty generic in the transmittal because we hadn't yet had assigned Rep C, but this is on 24th Street out in West Ogden where this property purchase will take place. And additionally, this is to appropriate $3,710,000 of the Synchrony line of credit money to be used in the Quality Neighborhoods program. We came up with $3,710,000 because the intent is to appropriate $4 million over the next 4 years. We'd like to reserve that for debt payment, and we've imputed an interest rate in that amount. And that gives us some control over those debt repayments. If property is sold for profit, that of course would be incorporated into the program. Okay.
Did I hear you wrong, or you said $3,785,000?
You did.
That is the 95. Excuse
Correct.
me,
Yeah.
95,000.
Get it right on the record.
Thank
so.
you. I appreciate
It's
that.
$385 to put into Quality Neighborhoods, and it's $3,785,000.
$710 for the Quality Neighborhoods.
So a gross increase of $3,795,000.
Yes,
For the record.
95,000.
Good job. Okay.
I need new glasses.
And I'm sorry, and so we have the opportunity to use the $4 million, but the extra amount will be used, it gives you the
It will
opportunity
be-
to pay the interest, is that correct?
Yes. So in the fiscal year 18 budget, there would be an appropriation for debt repayment with that $1 million that will be allocated from the city, including a principal and an interest portion. Thank you.
Any other questions? I think we have to do these separately, is that correct? Janine, I'm sorry to ask that question. Receiving input on one.
So this is just the public hearing on, it's just on the one item.
Just what, 3A.
Well, I'll make a motion that we open the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion to open the public hearing by Board Member Heyer, second by Board Member Garner. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Public hearing is open for the first item.
In a moment, I make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion to close the public hearing by Board Member Lopez, second by, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Garner. This is a voice vote. All in favor? Closed. It has been closed.
With that, I will go ahead and make a motion that we adopt proposed resolution 2016-18.
Second.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Blair, second by Board Member Lopez to adopt the acquisition and demolition of property at 503.
No.
Sorry.
Synchrony Bank line.
Oh my gosh, no wonder I'm really off. The FY 2017 budget amendment. This is a roll call vote.
Board Member Heyer.
Aye.
Board Member Lopez.
Aye.
Board Member Nadolski.
Aye.
Board Member Stevens.
Aye.
Board Member Garner.
Aye.
Vice Chair Blair.
Aye.
Chair White.
Aye, that passes. Sorry, I was down one too many lines. Next on the agenda item is reports from administration.
Ward Ogden will be making this presentation along with asking questions that were asked in the previous meeting.
Chair, members of the board, appreciate the opportunity to present today. We are presenting...
Didn't get to present, just so you know. I was just kidding.
What was that?
Nothing. Go ahead.
The item before you is a proposal to purchase and demolish a building at 503 26th Street. We've recently been able to negotiate a purchase agreement after several years of interest, and finally the opportunity came to us recently, and we need to close very quickly to conform to the agreement that we've been able to come up with. The agreement is to purchase the building. It's an apartment building at 503 26th Street. It has 18 apartment units in it. 11 of those units are legal units. The 7 are illegal units and were added without permission or approval. There are a number of other modifications made to the building and age to the building, including settling and structural problems that have rendered it in a state of, the building official has determined it to be a dangerous building. We've been able to negotiate a price at $450,000. It includes, of course, the units, and we have 11 tenants that are currently occupying the building, and we have a relocation plan in place and ready to implement with them. We plan to close on Friday of this week and fund on Monday, and then that meets the end of the month time frame for leases and that kind of thing. So that seems like the time frame that we've been able to negotiate. This building is kind of critical because it's a picture of the property. We know it in the community as New Life Apartments, and that's a front view, side view, and then the setting is on the plat there. It's a fairly small lot. It's only 8,500 square feet. Fairly small lot, but the building takes up almost all of the property. We've had a number of issues with the building and its operation for many years, and as I said, it's now an opportunity that we've been able to come up with to purchase the building. It's been requested and recommended from members of the community and others that operate businesses nearby. And so we look at this as a tremendous opportunity for redevelopment, to participate in the redevelopment of the neighborhood and to support the investments that many of the neighbors have undertaken, and also the redevelopment agency in the city have undertaken the Jefferson Avenue Historic District Block East. So we put a lot of effort into historic preservation there with some limited infill, new construction infill, but the prime focus there was preservation of the historic district. So we're very sensitive about removing historic buildings and old buildings. In this case, the challenge, of course, is how do we balance that? with an older building that has some history to it, but has been modified and is structurally unsound and just needing a lot of repair. In doing our analysis, we found that the cost of repairs with the acquisition would make that not economically feasible and would leave it in a condition that would really not contribute to the revitalization of the area. So that would be our recommendation, is to purchase and remove. The point that I wanted to make, and I've got a few slides to show businesses located in the area, and many of those have undertaken some repairs. Here's an apartment building that's undertaken some repairs and is trying to get back on its feet. Changed ownership a few years ago, and they've done a lot of investment in it. The owners of this building have put a lot of effort into that, and they're operating a business there. This is the Ogden Professional Center, which is just east of the New Life Apartments. This struggled for many years with getting good tenants, and it's actually a sound building and in good condition. Has a fair amount of parking and a good setting for operating professional office space. But because of some of the issues in the neighborhood, have had a hard time getting renters. We've got a number of owners that have invested in property in the neighborhood. This is two doors east of the New Life Apartments. Renovated home, purchased and renovated commercial building, which is now a residential use. A lot of money going into these and a lot of effort and interest. And of course, as I referenced, the Jefferson Avenue Historic District is a big investment. It's an iconic neighborhood in Ogden, so we're kind of in that area, and this is a project that we believe will have an effect on and to kind of help to synergize with the other efforts that we've done over the years. So it's our recommendation that the board approve the resolution and allow us to proceed with the acquisition and relocation and demolition, and then we will work to come up with a future plan for the site, because we're not coming with a redevelopment site in particular. We're simply looking at trying to remove the blight and the impediment that's been kind of a roadblock to the further development of this area. Are there any other questions?
I just have a quick question. You said building officials deemed it a dangerous building. Who?
That's right.
Which building officials?
Our building official, yes, the Ogden City building official. And that's after a lot of research and investigation. It's not a term that you use lightly.
And more specifically, you said that the building is settling or sinking.
It has had some structural failure and settlement. Some of the floors in the units you can see them sloping. And then there's been also some structural modifications made to create new units and modify walls and things like that.
That has created some structurally unsound.
That's right.
Portions of that
building. It would need a full structural evaluation and rebuild. Structural. It's just not. It's been determined that it doesn't quite. It doesn't meet the code based on the settlement and the modifications that have been made.
Board, before you got here, I asked a premature question in the previous meeting, so your presentation answered it, and I thank you for that.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other? Okay. Great. Thank you. Yep. So this is, we don't open the hearing. So this is an opportunity to receive any input on this property.
Oddly enough, the timing of this actually for closing couldn't be more appropriate. Basically, in the year 1870, Lauren Farr sold this property to William Elmer, and that included the Scowcroft property directly to the east and that entire lot 6. And so it actually closed on Halloween in 1870, so 146 years ago. So I think the timing of that would probably be pretty appropriate for the city to come in towards a restoration campaign an introduction for a restoration campaign in the neighborhood. I don't believe the demolition is in order. It could be possibly slighted for a future portion, but I think if the adoption of this goes through, the demolition should be removed for the possibility for an RFP for that, just as we did with the Rio Grande building. The Rio Grande building was also in complete disrepair and was ready to be slided for demolition when the city acquired it and then sold it to Gotti Leishman, and then we bought it back from Gotti Leishman for an excessive price. I mean, it's just, we just keep turning over properties. So if we have this property and sell and hold on to it, similar to what Mr. Ogden said with regards to the investment into that neighborhood, Bartholomew Frame Valley had proposed a loading dock east of their property, and then the city was going to surplus Porter Avenue to them as surplus property, when in reality it was actually a dedicated roadway, not surplus property. And so it didn't meet the criteria for a loading dock. So I think the new life for me, when you say there's no parking, do we have sufficient parking for this building, the Justice Court, the amphitheater, if we were actually to have every event possible being housed at each building at the same time? There's not. So parking, to me, again, the walkability score is significant enough that there's other properties that could possibly be taken for parking if that's necessary, including 533, where the beautiful historic Scowcroft Mansion was demolished. And so I think as far as historic preservation of this building, not so much a facadectomy, but I believe there's still characteristics and traits. If the building official, so to speak, is there a sense for abatement versus demolition, those types of things? I think that's the part to me. The Art Center was not structurally sound till $1 million renovation. We now have seismic upgraded, and the turret is completely anchored right into the footings. So are we going to tear down the Art Center? It's not seismically sound. But restoration campaigns, I believe that the demolition part of this needs to be removed, or possibly just said we'll revisit it after an RFP, because the Rio Grande building is the same thing. I found a photograph of 1920s that we were able to use on promotional items throughout the city. So the corner, if you do Envision Utah and study anything, the corner is a key element. If this key element, where it used to be the working class, has degenerated from that, shame on us for issuing permits, for business license permits for them to continue to rent 18 units.
Any other comments? Input? Comments?
It might be well if Ward were to. I guess I have a question about the timing on some of those for you, Ward. If in as much as $100,000 of demo money, is the timing critical that it be demoed immediately, or is there some wiggle room that could be so you could investigate maybe some other options from someone who is willing to mitigate those structural issues? I don't know if it's possible. I'm not a structural engineer, but I know that we do a lot of things for historic buildings.
That's one of the things that we've looked at in the years that we've tried to work with the owner, so this, while the purchase is quick, the analysis was not, and so we didn't arrive at the decision to demolish, because we're into historic preservation too. I mean, that's one of our missions. And so the recommendation to demolish has come with a lot of analysis and consideration. So
and I may add there's some safety concerns with not demoing it because it is already a building that's people are used to going there who don't reside there. And I think that it could become a real safety hazard to that neighborhood with fire and other things.
Well, I know vacant buildings are never a good thing for a neighborhood either, but I just thought we'd throw it out and have some dialogue about it. That's kind of why I ask.
Like I say, we have had dialogue internally about that, and that's why we're bringing it forth. But it's your choice.
Yeah, we just heard about it today, so.
And you're coming up to speed very quickly, I hope.
Well, it sounds to me, Ward, like demolition is, you might deem unfortunate, but necessary in this instance.
Right. And again, we're motivated as I spent a good part of my career working on Jefferson Avenue, restoring and trying to. But again, when we do the balancing act on this particular property, that's the way that's our recommendation. So.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
So any further discussion? Sorry.
Ready as that.
I have a question for, I'm being informed that I can't ask Travis a question, so I have a question for him, but I can't, per our rules, I can't ask a question. So I just, as I have some concerns as well. I agree the purchase sounds very well, and demolition potentially also sounds, the presentation you gave earlier, Ward, I'm fully familiar with that area. I understand it's called for, and it's going to be a great thing, as we're saying. Just honoring what was presented earlier, and given the fact that we didn't have enough time to know more about these, although I know that you know and your team knows, but we don't. And I'm just coming from the perspective of my role as a city council representative, trying to honor and represent my constituents. And I'd like to actually know if maybe more people in that area have the same feelings about the potential for preservation versus demolition. So that's just, for the record, I just wanted to make that known.
Maybe one solution is that if for future development we could work in some of these historical information that Travis has given to us to that property if that comes into the future. I think that would have the same impact that we would have, but we could tie in some of the historical facts and historical elements of this property.
So I'm just I'm in full support of supporting the purchase of the property and potentially demolition. I would prefer to just learn just a little bit more. We're not talking about months. We can learn more in our next work session meeting and then make that decision. Again, that would be just personally a personal preference. I do honor the work that goes in to make these assessments, as much as I honor our citizens coming up and expressing their concerns as well. So.
Well, let me throw this out. I think if it were probably some of the things that lend to my decision that it's probably not too critical is it's a very small piece of property. It's to do something else. I think you almost have to. I don't know how it would work with that small piece of property to try and rehab that thing and make that all work. But and I do have a lot of trust for our staff and their assessments on those things. The reason I did ask the question is because this is really our first issue with this thing today. I understand it's come along pretty fast, but it does beg the questions, and that's why I asked them. Mm-hmm. So,
Chair White, if I may, too. In respect to Councilman Lopez's comment and Councilman Hires, I think the people I've spoken with are in full support of the acquisition of this property and if necessary, demolition. I think that the folks I've talked to just wanted to know that we have done our due diligence, and that's why I've asked those questions today, and I feel comfortable that we have. So I see this as, if it does proceed to demolition, as unfortunate yet necessary based on the professional judgment of our administrative staff. I trust that recommendation. I wish it could be otherwise, but I think that's the unfortunate fate.
Does it have anything to do with how old the building is? I mean, if we'd have acquired it 30 years ago, would it have made any difference?
Potentially. Mm-hmm. But I think, I don't know that anybody was around to inspect it 30 years ago. Definitely the things, the modifications that the owner has done to it have weakened the building. But the building's settling, it's old. I mean, Travis told us how old it really is. I think I just might say that I think Ward Ogden has probably the best track record of anybody I know at trying to preserve a building.
I would agree.
And I think he has a lot of history. When he says to the mayor and I, this needs to come down, we trust that because of his experience. He's saved buildings all over this community when he can. But there's some that just don't make sense, and I don't think there's enough money, we have enough money to incentivize someone, because the gap would be huge to come in and try and take that building when there's no parking. There's so many things wrong with it. It's such a small piece of property. It just doesn't make sense. And sometimes you have to make that decision. And as difficult as it is, because we're all about historic buildings in Ogden, that's a real positive thing. But even though the mayor's not here tonight, I know he feels the very same. We trust the analysis they've done. We know that they've done their due diligence, and we support wholeheartedly their recommendation to you.
Yeah, I would agree. I just thought this is an important conversation to get on the record. I think it's I'm glad we had this, and I appreciate Travis bringing it up. I think we need to make sure that stays part of our conversation, our dialogue, where possible, to save buildings that are significant. But thank you.
Chair White, if there's no other comments, are you prepared for a motion? If there's no other comments, you prepared for a motion? Yes. Make a motion that we adopt proposed resolution 2016-20 as presented.
I second it.
I have a motion by Board Member Nadolski, second by Board Member Stevens, to adopt the proposed resolution 2016-20. This is a roll call vote.
Board Member Lopez?
Aye.
Board Member Nadolski?
Aye.
Board Member Stevens?
Aye.
Board Member Garner?
Aye.
Board Member Heyer?
Aye.
Vice Chair Blair?
Aye.
Chair White?
Aye, that passes.
And with that, just comments. Travis, I always appreciate you, coming and giving us the history and really, being that voice. And, I think also I just want to comment what was said earlier. I trust in our engineers and Ward's team, and sometimes these things happen that are unfortunate and for older buildings, but I think that this building has been damaged and neglected by owners who have caused these problems to happen.
Maybe in the future, if any development is in this area, that we could incorporate some of the historical elements, and that would be part of the preservation that we're looking at there in some way.
I would actually appreciate in the future, please, if you can somehow include us in the knowing of some of these decisions before they come in front of us, just so that I understand a little bit better how it works. If anything, more of an education for me. I would just appreciate that.
I understand it was on a quick, an unusual situation, so I'm sure the administration will do that in the future. But this was an unusual situation that we were placed in.
And I'd just make one other comment. We didn't have a meeting last week, so we didn't have an opportunity the week before to be able to come and talk to you, which we would have been prepared to do.
All good comments. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the real estate purchase contract for the .22 acres of property at 660 West.
Brandon Cooper will present on this.
Members of the board, good evening. Thank you for your time. I think this next proposal before you is a little bit easier than the previous one. Thank you for your hard work and deliberation on that.
You might not get off that easy.
Okay, so this proposal is for the acquisition of .22 acres located at the corner of 24th Street and D Avenue. This is a street view picture of that property. It consists of a vacant building. It's a fairly nondescript building. I don't believe there are actually any windows in it. It's empty now. It also has what you see to the east of it there, which is just a vacant ground, no parking lot. I'm not exactly sure how long it has been vacant, but it is vacant now. And so there's an opportunity for the agency to purchase this property. The purchase price is $85,000. And then we are also proposing that at a certain time in the future that this property be demolished as well, which would come at a cost, an estimated cost of $25,000 with a $10,000 contingency on that demo. So for a total price of $120,000, we are proposing the acquisition and demo of this property. This property actually has transacted a little bit differently, so I think it's important to describe that. We did take this property on assignment from a broker. So in your packet, you'll see an unfamiliar, maybe, purchase contract with an assignment attached to that. So we did take this on assignment. It was negotiated by a third party and assigned to us. The purchase price funds are being sourced from the CIP Critical Contingency Fund, so there is sufficient money to pay for the acquisition and the demo. Also, as part of the acquisition, you may have noticed that there are two names in the purchase contract. One is the Armstrong 70 Trust, and the other is, I believe it's Property Source Utah. There was some, during that acquisition phase with the broker, there was some confusion about the title ownership of the property. There was a quitclaim deed that never got recorded. So we've worked that out. The actual title owner is Armstrong 1970 Trust. So the title companies helped us figure that out. And there is a delinquent tax bill on the property that will be settled at the closing with the funds from the settlement to the seller. So all the taxes will be taken care of, and we'll receive free and clear title for the property. So that's the proposal, and we recommend that you approve Resolution 2016-21. Any questions?
I have one. On that picture, are they acquiring the green space too, or
right,
and the building and
from the west side of the building to D Avenue?
And what about that white building?
No, that white building is separate. I do have a different picture, I think. That may not help as much. Yeah, so it is not the white building. It's just the brown brick building and the empty property. Okay, thank you.
Chair White, are we ready for a motion?
Yes.
I make a motion that we adopt, where is this?
2016-21.
Resolution 2016-21.
Second.
We have a motion by Board Member Lopez, second by Vice Chair Blair, to adopt the proposed resolution 2016-21. This is a roll call vote.
Board Member Nadolski?
Aye.
Board Member Stevens?
Aye.
Board Member Garner?
Aye.
Board Member Heyer?
Aye.
Board Member Lopez?
Aye.
Vice Chair Blair?
Aye.
And Chair White?
Aye. That passes. Excuse me.
Chair White, real quick, Councilmember Stevens just asked a question, and I'll bring that up. As this property is developed, Brandon, and developer, will they look at the sidewalk and curb and gutter and everything around that if it needs to be repaired, or is that?
Yes.
I think that would be a benefit to us.
When you say would they, you mean
the developer?
The developer? And is that the right answer? Yes, the developer would be looking at that?
When something happens with that property, they'll look at everything, yes.
Wasn't clear to me, that's why I...
Right.
All right, next on the agenda is public comments. This is an opportunity to address the board concerns regarding any concerns or ideas on any topic.
With regards to historic preservation, if you notice, a loan is being taken out for the property, so no federal funds are being used for this purchase, because then they'd have to go through the State Historic Preservation Office, which is SHPO. So there already is a loophole, meaning historic preservation steps have not been followed. if we're going to use federal funding for this, then we have to do a couple more steps to preserve, to check on historic preservation, to document the site, all those types of things to see if it's worthy of restoration. So the way that this loophole has been, the way this has been superseded is by simply getting a loan from ourselves to ourselves and tearing it down with non-federal money. And yet I have still a hard time with that, because to me the public trust is some of the city administration receive funds towards their salaries possibly from federal funding. Just the same reason Chief Greiner couldn't sign off on certain things, because they said there was a possible violation of the Hatch Act years ago. And then it was investigated. Oh, there's not necessarily any violations. But Chief Greiner said, I'll simply step down from my position in Senate. We'll go ahead and maintain my position. So as far as if historic preservation is first and foremost, we could also follow the SHPO guidelines as a city. And so we can say, what checks are being made? Has an independent independent engineer been hired? Yes, I don't doubt that the staff has worked their fingers to the bone. I'm a direct result of them working their fingers to the bone with regards to my street: curb, gutter, sidewalk, roadway, tree planting, lighting. When Bill Wright came on board, the mayor said, "This is the project." And he says, "Where's your funding?" He went over to Public Works. They didn't have funding. So then, through a HUD guideline, they were able to go back and get those things done. And I applaud the city for those aspects and efforts. But I think when we're trying to circumvent something and we just simply get a loan and give it to ourselves so we don't have to give the guise of following historic preservation guidelines, we as a city can adopt those same things. We can say, if we're tearing down a historic building or something in the Central Bench National Historic District, if you even read your program and it simply says, once a historic resource, is no longer a historic resource. So obviously it was. So why are we not following the state guidelines? Why are we as a city circumventing our own things towards historic preservation? I really don't have a problem. If an independent engineer came in and said, hey, we're tearing it down 3 weeks, there's still 2 leases on the property. Once we even buy it, there's still two people that have lease agreements on that property. Can that timeline be expedited? Yeah, if it's torn down in a month, fine. But we did our due diligence. That's the part I'm frustrated by, because we haven't done our due diligence. It's been a city staff, a possible inspector and then the county saying, here's abatement, here's this, here's remediation that can be made. Those types of things. I really think we're shooting ourselves in the foot with this property, because what else is it good for? Minimal for that. Oh, let's tear more down, let's tear more down, let's tear more down. Where does it stop? And so the significant investment, again, the city was ready to surplus property until I came back and said, oh no, you know what? It's a designated road. It's not surplus property, so I think we need to follow those guidelines.
Thank you.
Don't take that as a sign.
That is a sign. You are done. No, we are done.
Yeah. Somehow.
Any other comments? Anyone else? Board Executive Director?
Chair, for my comments there was some intimating in the previous comments. I think I'd like to have Ward just step and kind of answer those, if that would be okay with you.
That'd be great.
Because there were some inaccuracies in those statements.
One of the steps that we follow, whether federal funds or not, is to do an analysis or look at the historic nature of buildings.
Ward, I'm sorry, can you speak up just a little bit, please? Thank you.
So one of the things that we do, regardless of what fund source we use, is to determine what an impact we're having on historic buildings. If we use federal funds, then we have a set process that we go through. But still the mindset that we use, regardless of funds, is the same thing. And so it wasn't brought out, and I should have mentioned, and I think in the board packet, it actually does say that we've done the analysis on the historic aspect of the building as if we had done a 106 review. And it's determined that it doesn't contribute. It's been surveyed and it's found not to contribute, and it's primarily because of the modifications that have been made. It's not because of its age. Age is kind of a charming factor in relation to historic preservation, but because of its the modifications that have been done to it, it's been determined not to be. So we have, in fact, gone through the same steps without doing the formal written stuff that we do when we have to do the federal. We've gone through the thought process. hopefully that's clear.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other comments? Board members? Oh, I'm sorry.
Public comment?
It is over, yes.
Oh, it is over.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Any other comments? Board members? No? Okay. Done?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion by Board Member Heyer, second by Vice Chair Blair to adjourn. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?